Welcome back to the Real Talk Podcast, episode 180. I'm your host, Nathan, and I'm joined by the man himself, Matthew Neves. And today we are going to be discussing live action and animated films live action animated
Yes.
crossover films. Or
Yeah, something
not mixed. How do you
live
explain
action.
it?
Okay, so sorry, you caught me off guard because I was like, no, live action movies with animation within it.
There you go.
That makes sense.
There you go.
We're gonna find a better title in the YouTube video when
Yeah.
when this gets uploaded.
I haven't thought this through, but you know what we're talking about.
You'll know when we set the examples.
Exactly. So this is a genre that we don't see much of these days,
No, yeah,
but we used to see a ton of, or not a ton, but there used
just
to be a lot more examples in
yeah,
the starting in the late 80s and in the 90s, early
right.
2000s.
Yeah. I would say so. I think it started with Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And then it spawned into other movies such as Space Jam, Looney Tunes Back in Action. Another recent one was the Chippendale movie. They did both
Yeah,
live action and animation, both 2D and 3D,
that's
I
right.
think. So they tried a little bit here and there, but for the most part, we don't see it as common as other types of movies, like stop motion, I guess you could say.
Right.
Um, but yeah, like in terms of what started it all, in my opinion, it was Who Framed Roger Rabbit back in 1988, directed by Robert Zemeckis. Uh, this could be just an excuse for me to just talk about this awesome movie. Who knows?
Yeah, partially.
Partially.
Partially, we're going to spend a good bit on Roger Rabbit for sure because this is the film that kind of shaped the genre. Not to say that there wasn't examples of this before,
hmm I do like the other examples you have on
right?
this list.
But the execution of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, um, not only looked good in 1988,
Yeah.
looks good right now.
Oh, it looks amazing. I think it's because of the fact that the animators put so much work into the details of each character, while also the live actors like trying to eyeline and stuff. Because this was before digital,
Right.
so they went literally on the film reel, frame by frame, every single cartoon character, so that it worked with the scene.
It's incredible how well people are able to interact with these animated characters,
Yeah,
and it's seamless. I have no idea how they pulled this off
it's insane. Like
in 1988. I can't
in
imagine.
'88, I remember seeing a behind the scenes video of like the shooting of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and oh my god, it looks like hell in terms of like Bob Hoskins acting with a
Right.
plushy Roger Rabbit, and he has to align his eye with Roger Rabbit's and making like
Oh,
miming
the
and shit.
production must have been fucking hell. Like it must have been just brutal for these actors. They must have felt, kind of directionless. Like, what the fuck
Yeah.
am I doing every day?
Well, also like little details that they didn't have to do. Like for example, the cartoon characters holding live action guns.
Yeah.
They could have been like, "Oh, just draw a gun."
Or smoking cigars, or they
No,
did this mixed reality thing, right? Which works extremely well, and it's usually not something we see.
no.
Usually, the animated characters interact with animated objects.
Exactly. And that's the scary part when you see that, when you notice that, like the baby or whatever, when he's smoking the cigar, it's like, oh my God. So they had an animatronic arm just like
Right.
mimicking smokes because there's nobody smoking in that scene. It's just nothing. So you have to mimic the smoking, you have to mimic the floating guns
Right.
so that it aligns with the character holding it. I'm like, damn, that's fucking nuts, man. But it's so beautiful when it comes all together. And my goodness, like
Robert Zemeckis, man, was on fire. Just
Back
did
Back to the Future, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Back to the Future sequels, and then Forrest Gump. This
Jesus
man just didn't
Christ.
miss during this time.
It
This would
was
to me, this is up there. This might be my favorite or second favorite from his. Up there with Back to the Future in terms of my favorite from him.
I think this is his most impressive film. And that's saying
Yes.
something because obviously Back to the Future has some incredible effects and
hmm
and does some incredibly timeless things.
hmm
But this film is so timeless, and it's really hard for me to believe that this was 1988, man.
I think it's also cool too because I remember we both saw this as kids, right?
Yeah, yeah, back in the day. For sure.
Classic. And what I loved about it, and I think this is just my nostalgia for this era, is that they set it during the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
I love that because it makes sense. It's like RKO Pictures, RKO, like they had Acme. He was an actual guy in the movie. They
Right.
actually had like this world building that you didn't notice. You were like, wait a minute. Like, yeah, like Dumbo would interact with Like Dumbo would be like Humphrey Bogart in terms of here's a 5-picture contract deal. Roger
Right.
Rabbit, he's through. He's not making as much money, and it's just like I love that environment because I love film, and I just love the fact that they set it around that time, and it feels more timeless because of that. If that makes any
Exactly.
sense.
Yeah, they're able to pull off this also like this film noir element extremely well.
Yeah, it's amazing. Fun fact too. I don't know if you noticed this too in the script. Gave off Chinatown vibes.
It's Chinatown with a
It
rabbit.
yeah, I love that. I fucking love
You
that.
can you could literally kind of start matching the characters and like,
Yeah,
all right, just grab it.
exactly.
Yeah.
But what's even crazier is that apparently the script, because this movie is about how Judge Doom is his name, I believe, Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah.
Great performance, by the way. He
Great.
wants he wants to destroy and eliminate Toontown to build railways,
That's right.
to build roads and stuff like that. And that was actually a part of the Chinatown books. Like that was a sequel to the next one because Chinatown was about I think it was about the water or something like that. Like
It was
each
about the water, yeah.
yeah, it's about the water, and each film was set like about a specific type of transportation, type of corruption within that field. This would be the same thing, where it's just like it would be all railways, highways, and stuff like that. There wouldn't be
I
any.
didn't even know that there was more to that.
Yeah, no, like there was more to that story in Chinatown. Like the two Jakes focuses on the housing market,
Right.
so each story was focused in specific areas. So this was
So where's the next Chinatown movie?
well.
They brought everything else back.
I don't know. In all fairness, though, Chinatown is such a classic that thinking about
Yeah.
a sequel,
I guess that's kind of stupid.
it's
but-
got a Jack Nicholson. I don't know if he'd come back for that, but
no, he's not.
I
You
don't know.
obviously have to recast, but I'm just like
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a good idea to make a Chinatown sequel. I'm just saying I'm surprised that it hasn't been talks about that yet.
Yeah,
And I think it's probably coming.
I don't want to think that. I want to think. I want to think Roger Rabbit was the spiritual sequel to Chinatown. It's like the
Sure.
kids' version of it.
Yeah.
You could get away with because yeah, even Bob Hoskins is like, oh my god, Jessica Rabbit was playing patty cake with Mr. Acme and stuff. I'm like, oh my god, that's funny.
It is the funniest way. It's the best like PG horny movie you could ever see.
Yes, yes, exactly. Because the jokes they throw at you, oh my god, you watch
Like,
it now and you're like,
An adult
wow.
audience will absolutely love it.
But also, it kind of makes sense
Mhm.
coming from like 1940s cartoons.
Right.
Because 1940s cartoons, they weren't like, oh, we have to appeal to a 5-year-old. It's like, no, we'll appeal to
No, they're fucked. They're racist. They're just like crazy.
yeah,
like,
man.
a lot of the jokes are made for adults.
When Warner Brothers has to put an acknowledgement before their fucking cartoon saying, hey, this is fucked up, just so you guys know.
Right.
That's kind of what you're getting into. But no, Roger Rabbit's classic. I love the ending. I love so many moments in that movie. It's
Yeah.
just
There's such funny jokes in that movie. Like shit, even like corny shit, like the booby trap. Like I still
I
fucking-
know,
I
right?
still laugh at that bit. It's so silly.
But it's also great line deliveries too.
Yeah,
like
Bob Hoskins.
Kathleen Turner as Jessica Rabbit is just like, I'm just drawn this way, And I'm like, oh man, like that's a really well written part because you build the world that way.
Right.
It's just like these cartoon characters are just this is how they look, this is who they are, this is how
They play it so straight, and I love that. They never really try to like wink at the camera.
No. And they also don't explain too much.
Yeah.
Because that's another issue. It's just like if you explain too much, the audience is going to be like, "Wait, who drew these characters?"
Right. Then it's like it's bullshit.
Yeah, you gotta move
Just
away
leave it
from
as
that.
like this is the norm,
Yeah,
and we don't have to explain it that much.
Mhm.
But they do give great character exposition through the dialogue. Like you know exactly what kind of man Eddie Valiant is, and you don't
Yeah.
necessarily see too much of his personal life,
hmm
but you know.
You know what's crazy too? You know who was originally supposed to be Bob Hoskins' character in this film, and he said no to it because he had another scheduling conflict. You will never fucking guess.
I think I might have some casting what ifs.
Eddie Murphy.
Oh yeah, I have that
Eddie-
on. Yeah,
Eddie Murphy said no to
Right.
it because he's like, I was gonna do Coming to America, and then I read, I was like, Cartoon Rabbit, fuck that. And he's like, then I saw it in theaters. I'm like, fuck, I should have been in it.
yeah. How do you think that would have worked?
I would have think like in terms of his look, it would have looked like
Harlem Nights.
yeah, Harlem Nights.
Yeah.
Anyway. And you know what? There could have been a different angle behind that because of people's what was it, like, discrimination amongst the cartoons and stuff. This is set in the 1940s. He's a
Right.
detective and stuff. Maybe he was treated like dog shit as well, and his brother got killed, and nobody
Right.
bothered like looking into it.
So then he like related to the cartoons or something. Yeah.
But again, that's a whole other narrative that this film isn't focusing on at all.
As well as Eddie Murphy, Harrison Ford was Spielberg's original choice to play Eddie Valiant. The price was too high. This is
Yep,
obviously post Star Wars,
this is
and
Indiana
this
Jones.
is Yeah, like here, Harrison Ford is that guy
Damn,
in 1988. So yeah, couldn't get him. Chevy Chase was also in the running.
that would have been terrible.
Wasn't interested.
Nope.
Yeah, that would have been bad. And Bill Murray.
Eh, I
No, we
don't.
got the right one. Like
We got Bob
I say that to
Hoskins.
say we got the right one.
Yeah, and respect to Bob Hoskins for doing that American accent because it slips sometimes.
Yeah.
It slips sometimes. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm fine with it because he plays a drunk and he's like he's so good.
Yeah.
He's so fucking good in this movie, especially towards the end when he tries to act goofy.
And
Just
it's
like
the 40s. Everyone talks kind of funny, so you can
Yeah.
like kind of excuse it. You know, it
I
just
let it
fits.
pass.
Yeah.
I let it pass. All right, he's talking to a cartoon rabbit. It's fine.
Exactly, This movie cost $50 million.
Holy fucking
which
shit.
in 1988 is a huge gamble.
Yeah.
But it's the only way you could get it done because, like you said, it's the labor of frame by frame adjusting these characters is
Yeah.
brutal. It's really time consuming and
Also, Steven Spielberg's connections. When you have connections to have Warner Brothers and Disney work with each other,
oh my god,
brother, what? That's never gonna happen ever fucking again.
for that alone, like, and look, we've gotten so used to the cameo fest films, right?
Yep,
lately.
multiverse, whatever.
Multiverse this and nothing's off the table. Like I quoted on here saying that the Marvel DC crossover is going to happen in the next 5 years.
Yeah, it will.
But Who Framed Roger Rabbit is so incredibly impressive that in 1988 they got this together. There's a scene with Daffy Duck
Yep.
doing a musical number with
Donald
Donald
Duck.
Duck, which is like what the hell? There's a Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse scene,
Yeah.
as well as Betty Boop and like
Yeah.
all these other incredible characters. Like it's a love letter to animation as well as it is like this film noir kind of
Yeah.
movie. I can't believe they pulled this off. It's
I'm-
just really impressive.
Yeah, I'm more impressed with the Mickey Mouse Bugs Bunny cameo than any cameo I've seen in the last 10 years.
Ever, yeah.
Yeah, because ever, exactly.
Ever. It's
Because of the fact that not only did they have the exact amount of screen time, but it's such like a beautiful moment to be like, hey, they're in on it and stuff like that. Like Bob Hoskins, like, oh, thanks, and then
isn't it so refreshing when there isn't like a applause like pause for applause
Oh
when one
my
of those cameos happens?
yes,
Because we've gotten so used to that too, right?
Yeah.
The cameo happens and it's like they just have to stare for a second and
Mhm.
we got to take it in and get excited. It's like they don't do that in this movie.
No,
They're
yeah.
just like, you're just like, oh, that's Mickey Mouse. Oh,
just
that's-
happened, yeah.
Yeah, it just happens, you know?
And I
They move
love
on.
that
They don't
because-
harp on it.
Because when you're in your home and watching it again, you're like, why is there a comedic pause? I'm so like, no,
Right.
this is a movie. We're not doing that shit. This isn't like theater, all
Yeah,
right?
exactly. This isn't a play.
Fuck, man. I totally agree with that too. Shit. But yeah, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Fucking classic. One of my favorite movies. Has
Also,
a
that
great-
$50 million gamble, sorry to cut
Yeah,
you
go
off,
for it.
but it made $351 million.
I'm not surprised.
So it worked, and I'm so glad it did.
They tried making a sequel too. They really tried. Robert Zemeckis was like, well, I was doing the Polar Express technology, and I thought, nope,
No.
cancel it. We're done. It's a one movie. They made a few short films with Roger Rabbit, which I thought were cute. That's all you need. That's all you need. Then we move on. We move on to other things like the infamous Space Jam movie.
Space Jam.
Yep.
I love Space Jam. As a kid, this was a foundational movie for me. Like
Mhm.
foundational. Obviously, what's really special is when it came out,
Yeah.
how big of a star Michael Jordan was, how much of a reflection the film was to like his real life, of him going to play baseball. I just think it's incredible that they put that together and like made a Looney Tunes film about Michael Jordan's life, which is like
It is kind of funny though when you think about it. You know how like we talk about the Lego movie and Barbie and how those movies are like really well made,
yeah,
but they're commercials.
yeah,
is this not just like the 90s equivalent of that? Because
Sure.
it's what the Nike commercials.
Sure. It for sure is, but it's like a memorable commercial. It's
I
like
agree.
one of those banger Nike
Oh
commercials that you
yeah,
never forget.
exactly.
You know, like the soundtrack
Hmm.
hits. There's such memorable scenes. There's really funny scenes.
Yeah. No, really, really good. I'm not saying the commercial was bad. I'm just saying because of how big the commercial was,
Yeah.
this movie got made.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, fuck, that's crazy. It's been a while since I've seen Space Jam. I remember watching it so much as a kid.
Yeah.
Um,
I seen it recently. It still hits. I watched the new Legacy recently.
oh
Oh my
god,
god,
are
that
you
movie
serious?
is so shit.
It was one of the worst films I've ever seen.
It's so bad. I could not believe how bad it was. How long they had to think of a decent premise for a sequel. The fact that it's equally impressive to get LeBron James
Mhm.
with where he's at in his career. I know the Michael Jordan stardom in the '90s is something that will never be touched,
No, yeah.
but at the end of the day, you got LeBron James
Mhm.
while he's like close to his prime,
Mhm.
and he's the most famous basketball player that's playing right now.
It makes sense. It makes sense to have him in the Space Jam sequel. Not
No,
saying it isn't.
for sure, but it's like that's a timeless thing. Space Jam is timeless because it captures the era so well.
Mhm.
And when you go to New Legacy and they're like, "Oh, the algorithm,"
Yeah, no, it's
uh,
bad. Don Cheadle plays the
I'm like,
algorithm.
"This is gonna age like milk."
Mhm. It's ugly. And also the amount of cameos in that film.
Oh,
Like it's just so much that you don't even feel anything at a certain point. At least with Space Jam, okay, I'm not saying this is a masterpiece. In fact, I'm not a huge fan of Space Jam, but I completely understand the era. I completely understand why Michael Jordan was big at the time. You understand that from the movie. You don't feel this datedness or anything
no.
like that. You have Bill fucking Murray
And
playing.
there's kind of a message in Space Jam. There's like the father and kids
Yeah,
connection.
that's
There's
fine.
they have some emotion in the film as well.
Yeah, they try to do that, and you know what? God damn it, that's something.
Yeah.
That song, "I Believe I Can Fly," like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, song still slaps.
And they
Like,
have the
it's
throwback to young Michael Jordan in his yard
I love
shooting
that
hoops.
scene.
And like as a kid, that's a message to send to kids. Work hard and you could do something with your life.
Yeah.
And they hammer that message. It works, you know?
Mhm.
And the new legacy didn't have any of that. They were not interested in like sending this cool message to kids.
They relied heavily on nostalgia and only nostalgia.
Yeah.
The one joke that I chuckled at was, "Look, Michael Jordan's here." "Oh, no, Michael B. Jordan's
Yeah.
here." And Michael B. Jordan's there for 2 seconds and gets a paycheck. You know,
Sure, there's a
that's
cameo.
there's a
Yeah.
cameo there,
But
but,
there's way too many of them.
and I don't know, like, I think another reason why this movie didn't do well at all is because, like, Warner Brothers has treated Looney Tunes in the last 20, 25 years like shit.
Yeah.
They've not done anything creative with them. So when they try to bring in Space Jam, a
Yeah.
sequel, like, a lot of kids don't know or care, and the movie doesn't try to convince them. They just like, "Oh, you guys know Foghorn Leghorn, right?" And they're like,
Yeah.
"I'm 10 years old. I know TikTok. What are you talking about? Who is this?" And then like Warner Brothers like, "Oh fuck, well, we have LeBron." And it's like, LeBron's acting sucks. Who cares? I'm not saying Michael Jordan's acting was good, but they knew how to use him way better.
You're making a great point.
They knew how to use him way better. They had Wayne Knight as the obsessive fan. They had Bill Murray in it. They had actors
Yeah.
in this. In Space Jam: A New Legacy, nobody's helping LeBron with his
Yeah.
acting.
You're 100% right. He's terrible. He makes Michael Jordan look like Denzel Washington.
Yes.
And here's another thing they did smart. Bill Murray and Michael Jordan, good friends in real life. Guess what? Translates to screen.
Yes.
Good
exactly. Fuck, man.
Wayne Knight, obviously a great setup guy for Michael
Mhm.
Jordan to roast and to take the fall. Like they set up Michael for success there, where he didn't have to be Denzel
Mhm.
for that movie to work.
Yeah.
New Legacy is so bad
Mhm.
because LeBron has to convey this emotion of like trying to get his son back, and it's like he
No.
can't act for shit.
No, he can't.
He's way worse than Michael Jordan.
He's way worse. And it's also because of the fact that like who is he acting with? He's
Yeah.
acting with Bugs Bunny, and it's
Yeah.
like so fucking hard because that's another issue too that I have with both Space Jam movies. Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, all the characters, they don't sound like my childhood, man.
No,
Mel Blanc, man, like rest in peace. Like he died after the films got made. I would say Bugs Bunny sounds better in the first Space Jam than he does in the sequel.
Yeah,
Like, I don't know, they just get worse and worse. Nothing against the voice actors.
I
It's
know.
really hard to replicate it, but man,
I know. I do agree with you. The voices do throw me off. But you are right. Even more so is weird is that you are right. Like the kids nowadays don't fucking know what these characters are. They're still relying on like these characters, their personalities, their quirks.
from what?
From what? What have you guys done with the IP lately?
Unless the
Right
parents, yeah, unless
tax
the
write-offs, brother. That's
yeah.
it.
Exactly. Like it's all been tax write-offs and it's like you're just assuming that all these parents are showing them 1940s cartoons, which by the way, like I saw those. I saw those cartoons, you know. Some have aged better than others, but at the end of the day,
But I still remember watching Barber of Seville as a kid,
yes.
or these legendary Looney Tunes, sequences, and I'm really grateful that my dad showed me them
Mhm.
and was like, "No, pay attention to this. Like, this is good."
Did you have the box set? The DVD
I
box
didn't
set?
know I didn't have that, but I would watch a lot of reruns. Remember Teletoon Retro?
The Bugs Bunny and Tweety show.
Exactly. They would play Bugs Bunny and Tweety Show, and they would always show, those classic sketches,
Yeah.
and I would watch that. That would be like one of my favorite things to watch. I like that more than I liked anything uh, coming out at the time. Like
Yeah.
I really enjoyed watching that. Look forward to it.
Absolutely. You know, and right after Space Jam, Warner Brothers decided to make another film with the Looney Tunes called Looney Tunes Back in Action.
That's right. So they were looking for the sequel to Space Jam. We
Mhm.
talked about this before briefly in one of our episodes, but there was Spy Jam with Jackie Chan was on the
Yep.
table. That one was they were close.
Mhm.
I think that was a close. They were trying to do one with Jeff Gordon, Drive Jam or some shit,
Wow.
which would have been the war. Imagine
That sounds bad.
NASCAR,
Mhm.
a NASCAR Space Jam.
No. Fucking
That
no.
one sounds like the worst. They tried to do one with Tony Hawk too, which maybe could have been
Skate
cool.
Jam?
Skate
Yeah.
Jam.
Okay. That's a title.
That's a title. That's a premise.
That's a premise.
But that all kind of falls through, and then we get Looney Tunes Back in Action. I watched Looney Tunes Back in Action so much as a kid
Same.
because my dad loved Looney Tunes,
Mhm.
and up until my rewatch of this week,
Mhm.
I thought it was because my dad loved Looney Tunes that he liked to show me this movie.
Mhm.
And the reality is, no, this movie is made for adults.
Oh yeah. You can tell. You can tell. Do you know who directed this movie?
I don't.
Joe Dante. He's known for Gremlins. He's known for a bunch of films during that time, most famously Gremlins and The Howling and a little bit more obscure movies here and there. And he is a huge fan of Warner Brothers, like
Mhm.
Warner Brothers cartoons at least. So when they asked him to do a Looney Tunes movie, he was like, "Hell yeah, I'll do it. Let's make it meta." It's the Warner Brothers lot. It's very much reminiscent of Who Framed Roger Rabbit in terms of this is the studio, you know, there's Batman. And
Exactly. It's a modern Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
spiritually, I would consider
It's a
this.
spiritual successor, I think.
Yeah.
For sure. There's heavy inspiration. Like this
Mhm.
movie never gets made if Who Framed Roger Rabbit doesn't come out.
No,
right?
yeah, exactly.
But as a kid, like this was my first introduction to like the behind the scenes of Hollywood.
Yeah.
It actually was like
Mhm.
my first time of seeing like a lot, or my first Las Vegas casino scene.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Oh, that seems so good.
Right? Or
Mhm.
even the museum sequence. Like there's incredibly
Mhm.
memorable sequences in this film. Did I catch this is Brendan Fraser's stunt double and
No, yeah.
and all of those like fun adult bits that I really laughed at on my most recent watch?
Yeah.
No, but I still like the movie. Those sequences like the Las Vegas stuff was like burned into my head from a kid.
Mhm.
The villain stuff with
Steve Martin?
with Steve Martin.
Oh,
There's
he's
like
so good.
incredible Goldberg, one of my favorite wrestlers as a kid, makes a cameo in this.
He
So
does.
he's like a character in this, so I
Mhm.
always like that, and I know my dad did too. I just have such great memories with this movie. I hadn't seen it in so many years, and I'm just so happy that it actually holds up.
It's nice.
And I think it's
Yeah.
actually underrated.
I think so. It's a shame that this movie bombed at the box office because I think there was a lot of cool moments in it. And also, like, the older I get, the more I notice, like, references and cameos done right.
Yeah.
They're not, like, plain sight or whatever.
How
like,
about the Shaggy having lunch with his anime?
and it's the same original voice actor as Shaggy being like, you didn't do it, Rat Man.
How good is that?
I love that. It's such a sweet moment. And Joe Dante's aware of that because he grew up with a lot of those older cartoons,
Yeah.
older characters, and he wanted to bring it back to be like, hey, this is why people like Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
Let's have fun with this shit. Timothy Dalton plays Brendan Fraser's dad, and he's basically James Bond in the movie. Fuck yeah.
How good is that?
Like, it makes sense.
I love those scenes. It's incredible.
Yeah.
The villain stuff is over the top, but it just hits.
Yeah. It's very nice.
Bro, they're like all sitting in this line and they have their little titles in front. One is like one is the VP of child labor.
Yes.
The VP of nitpicking. Like,
I
there's
love
just, like, legendary little details.
The Warner
that
brothers are
I never
literally
caught.
twin brothers, man.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
Um,
Would recommend Back in Action.
Yeah. Oh, what else? Like, are we talking 3D as well?
Sure.
Because, like, the live action Scooby Doo's.
Those are classics.
I had fun with those as
Yeah.
a kid. I watched them a lot. I'm not sure how well they hold up. Maybe a lot less than Back in Action, but
I want to say the casting was at least 10 out of 10.
I agree.
The casting was 10 out of 10. The quality, haven't seen them in a while, but you know.
I agree. Casper was one that I saw as a kid.
You know what? I'll give Casper a pass.
Sure, because it's
Are
like,
there
it's not
are there
very
too many
well.
cameos in the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Dan Aykroyd as a Ghostbuster, whatever. It's fine.
Garfield?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It's a bad movie.
I'm sorry. I mean, Bill Murray,
Did
love
you
you,
kind
man.
of enjoy it as a kid though?
I like Tale of Two Kitties more.
Okay,
Because
sure.
it's like, oh my god, there's two of them.
Sure.
But no, not really. And the Smurfs too. That was kind of like my clocking out of the live action animated movies. The
I saw that one
Smurfs.
in theaters. I was pretty disappointed in Neil Patrick Harris and stuff. Like, this movie.
Like
kinda
Alvin and the
sucked.
Chipmunks was like also
Oh.
a turning point for me. Where I'm like, I'm not watching the
I
sequel.
kind of liked the first one though.
First one, yeah,
The
but
one
the sequels.
with what's his name? Sorry, the guy who plays the villain.
Oh my god.
They're from Anger Management, bro. Or
I told
not
you,
from-
Dave. I never lose. I know, yeah.
David Cross.
David
bro,
Cross,
of course.
yeah.
Like David Cross,
He's great.
comedic legend.
Yeah.
Christian, we're gonna need another 5 on this one.
Yeah. Sorry, we got to bring these up.
We talked about Back in Action for too long because I love Back in Action.
It's so good.
This, like, I don't know if any podcast ever has talked about Back in Action this long.
Look, if you're a kid, get off your phone, pull up Looney Tunes Back in Action and watch it. Trust me, you're gonna have a hell of a time. You're gonna love the Looney Tunes characters, even though you don't know any of them.
It never gets talked about.
I know.
Like, ever. I never hear people talking about Back in Action casually.
And like the world building makes sense when you bring up Vegas. I'm like, yeah, Yosemite Sam would own a Vegas casino.
right.
Like I in terms of like understanding what characters would do what. And it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense that like Tasmanian Devil would work for Acme. Acme's like Amazon.
Exactly.
That makes sense to me because like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Acme was like this, 1940s business guy that gets murdered or whatever. And it's like Acme is now turned into Amazon. It's turned to Apple.
It's actually well thought. It's actually well written. Unlike Space Jam, it doesn't rely on like Michael Jordan and it
Right.
being a sports movie, whatever. It's like clever.
He does make a cameo though.
He does.
I thought
that's
that was
right.
nice.
And the unzip. I love that scene when
That
they're
was
just
nice.
unzipping random cameos.
Yeah.
It's great.
I love that.
Why don't movies like this get made anymore now? Tell me.
Too expensive, copyright issues, and studios just aren't that creative anymore. I would say those are the main three, to be honest.
Are there any animated characters you'd like to see get a film like this? 2D, 3D.
I don't know. I think the closest we've gotten in modern times is SpongeBob.
Right.
The SpongeBob movie, the
Mhm.
original, I'm saying. I'm not talking about the sequels, but the original did that very well with David Hasselhoff. And,
Right. Yeah, that's fun.
Try something like that. Who knows? Maybe there's new cartoon characters that are out now that deserve a live action hybrid sort of thing.
3D, I think of Detective Pikachu.
Yes.
It's not bad. If you like
Not
Pokemon,
terrible.
I think it's worth the price of admission. It's
Yeah, I agree.
not bad. Is the Looney Tunes IP cooked? Will we ever see a classic again, let alone will we ever see a film again?
Some of the greats like Tex Avery, Chuck Jones, like those guys, unfortunately they passed away, but they were the reason why Looney Tunes kept its longevity is because
Right.
of their creative minds. I think there's somebody in Warner Brothers out there that is working there that is trying to make something like this. And Warner Brothers is like, no, tax write-off.
Right.
And it sucks. The Coyote Acme movie, I have a feeling somebody who worked on that felt this way. And I hope it gets made someday. That's the last message I want to say before ending off. I hope that movie gets released and shown to the public because who knows? Maybe that will bring back the Looney Tunes IP.
Yeah, I think it's hard to say where it's gonna go. It's hard to say if kids even give a shit nowadays.
Right?
But what I know is that it's the Looney Tunes IP is the lowest it's ever been.
Yeah. Because nobody knows anything about them. Like, if I asked a kid, like, "Whoa, Daffy Duck and stuff," they're like, "Who?" I'm like, "Fuck, man, it's
Ha-
getting
It's
bad."
hard to believe that kids nowadays might not know who Daffy Duck is.
They'll probably know more Disney characters because
Yeah,
Disney has done a better job at shoving these characters in your face,
right.
for better or for worse, because of Disneyland, because of all this shit. Warner Brothers does not have that. They have to rely on other things.
Warner Brothers, get your fucking shit together, bro. Like seriously, man. You guys hold very important IPs
Yeah.
that people care about, people cherish, people have fond memories of, and people want to see more of.
hmm and when you do shit like this as tax write-offs and stuff, you're not gonna get creative movies that way. You're just gonna leave them on the back burner, and nobody will ever see them.
The tax write off shit is just like we could do a whole episode ranting about that shit because it's like this is
It's fucked.
disgusting. It's disgusting. It really should like oh this really is just a business to you. Like
I know. I would say, you know what? Let's go on a positive note. Let's end
mhm.
off. In terms of all these films that we've named, rank them from best to worst.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit,
Mm-hmm.
undeniably the one that set the gold standard.
Yep.
I love Looney Tunes back in action.
Yep.
Maybe it's a lot of nostalgia talking, but I don't think so because on my last watch I really enjoyed it.
Hell yeah.
Space Jam is an all-time classic. I'll
Yep.
see it many more times before I die. Um,
And then
what
the only
and then
bad
it's
one is
like
Legacy. Bad one is New Legacy that
New
we talked about.
Legacy
It's dog shit.
really terrible, and maybe there's some other examples we didn't really get to, but yeah, those are kind of the ones that if you're looking to dive into the genre, you have to see those.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are the ones. How we rank it, I would rank it the exact same way, by the way. Amazing films. Would recommend all three.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it. Sorry, Christian, we went long.
He's gonna kill us now.
But yeah, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe to your boys. This is the last time you will see us on this Real Talk set. So say goodbye to the rectangle table. We're cooking up something bigger, something better,
Mhm.
something a little cleaner. So stick with us with that. We appreciate you guys for supporting us. And check us out on the YouTube memberships. We're locking in on the YouTube memberships, trying to give more value to the peeps over there who subscribe. So we appreciate you guys. Take care. Brush your hair.
Peace.